All right, guys, today's video, we are going to settle something once and for all. So independent front end versus razor front end, which one's faster? We have a just a Viper test car here, has a 350 razor front. Obviously there's more variables at play here, but we are just going to do a direct comparison between the 350 razor front and the 350 razor and or 350 independent front end setup. So I have that here. We're gonna go test the car. I've run quite a bit of laps on the track today already, and I've run a lot of laps in general. So I'm gonna probably do 10 laps or so with this setup, just to make sure that I'm not too much of a variable. I'm gonna have John run 10 laps as well. We'll throw the times up on our whiteboard back there by the drag strip. Probably do fastest lap and then median lap time. But if we crash a lot, the median's gonna kind of go away. But you know, we'll give you some feedback and then we'll change the front end and we'll do it over again and we'll give you our consensus. So let's head back to the track and do the razor front end setup. All right, guys, so we got test car. This is kind of a spec racer. I mean, it's Pro 4 magnet package, 6 ohm arm, has a 350 razor front, 18 volts. I'm gonna run a few laps here. We'll get best lap and then just overall how the car feels. John will do the same thing. We'll throw the numbers on the board and then we'll do the independent and see how that is. So pretty much, I mean, was running 260s there. That was a 261 fast lap on lap 6. Probably, I'll try to run a couple more laps and just see if I can get it in a little bit lower. But when I start crashing, that's kind of when I know it's time that's all it's got. So that was a 59.7, like literally putting it right on the edge. So that's probably gonna be my fastest with this setup. So I'll throw that up on the board here. We're having John do it too, just so that it's not totally biased. This car is set up pretty neutral, so it's not like, I mean, the front end's too high normally than what I would run. So it should be somewhat neutral so that it's a little bit more balanced, because in the past, John's cars and my cars, like we can almost never drive each other's cars, but this one is pretty much set up neutral. So blowing bad breath on them usually helps.
Blow fly.
But we'll go ahead and clean this off. Go. Tires are cleaned. We will put it down and John can do his laps. Jumping off. So that was a 259.1 that pass. So 258.
A little more in it. Okay.
Okay, so 258.2.
That's it for that thing.
So like I said before, that's both of us putting it right on the edge. Now we'll go back up front. We'll swap the front end over and we'll come back and we'll do the same test over again. All right, guys, so we're gonna pull the razor front end off. One thing that is awesome about the razor front is that it comes off super easy. To build the independent front, I need my glasses, and we do have a video on this, but I'll do a refresher right now. So I like to put the retainer down, over it, and then I use this brass hammer just as a pushing tool, so I don't actually like hammer anything. Put a spacer on, push it through, spacer on. I'm using 10 thou spacers on each side. That's going to give me basically a perfect amount of play between the two. Let's see here. I'm going to flip this over so that I can do it in the middle. Okay. And we'll press this one on the same way. You do want to hold it as square as possible so that it doesn't pop like that on you. Get our front tires seated. I always use my fingernail around the edge. On these, because the tires are a smidge narrower than the rim itself, very critical to roll it and make sure that you don't have a wiggly front tire, because that will definitely give you different results. So that looks good. Car looks level. I mean, technically they're the exact same size. The main difference is these ones spin independently. I do need to oil them. I oiled this one before we did the test, so this isn't getting special treatment, but there is a lot more moving components on this one, so there is more areas that need to be oiled. My theory on the two here is, and obviously if the car's turning, the inside wheel is going slower than the outside wheel, but typically the car is rolling, okay, as it goes through. So just like if you were making a right-hand turn, you would feel centrifugal force pull you like this. My theory is that the car lifts, and it actually lifts this tire off the ground anyway. So where this does help is where you're going through a lot of transitions, S's and whatnot, but which our track does have that. So if this is better, it's definitely going to show on that track back layer. So let's head back there and check it out. All right, guys, independent front end with 350 fronts. It's only been like 3 minutes since we were back here earlier. Okay, I can tell you it feels better through the S's, for sure. I can push it harder through. I've run a 260 with a 1, and I'm gonna guess that I can squeeze a low 50 out of this thing. Okay, so 249. So and that was pushing it pretty hard. That was probably pretty close to my limit. So that being said, yeah, yep, a full 10th. So like I said, I could really feel how much more comfortable the car was through the S's. That was the main spot. So even, I mean, the average person, even if they're not putting it on the edge like that, the edge is a 10th quicker, in my opinion, because of that right there. So everywhere else it felt really about the same. It was just right there I could feel like I could push it a lot harder. So that was 10 laps in. The real test to this would be probably doing a 1 minute heat and running 1 minute without looking at the screen, and then taking your median time. And if we had the penalty box hooked up, we could do that where it's got the same delay each time for the crash, so the average would be consistent. But I mean, I think for me, I'll run it one more time after we do this, but it definitely was better. The car did feel a little bit faster at first just because it had cooled off a little bit, but that's kind of irrelevant because John ran it right after me last time and he was still able to go a couple hundredths or a hundredth quicker, basically almost 200ths quicker. So should be good to go. Again, actually we clean the tires. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sam.
I'm gonna go grab the razor just to throw back on there because it's easy to throw on after you guys are done.
Done.
What do you think, John? What's your consensus?
Doesn't really feel any different.
Nope.
Nope. I think that,
So you ran a 54.3.
I think if we put it on a faster car, like a CMPM, probably start to notice more of a difference, but.
So just because I want to try putting the razor back on there
Razorback.
and seeing if I can get it anywhere close to that. Okay, so this is back to the razor, you're rolling, right? So I'm not gonna change anything. So I mean, that was 59.6. I ran a 59.7 earlier. I don't know if there's that much more in it, honestly.
Put some 9s in that thing.
Yeah, I just don't think that there's, for me anyways, I don't think that there's a lot more in it, but we can try. We got 5 more laps to do it. Yeah, I mean, I was watching, I ran 260 flats, 259, and then a 260 with a 3, like pushing it as hard as I could without coming off. So I don't know if maybe I'm braking later in here and then I'm getting back into it before where you were, and that's why I'm not coming off where you were, but the car is actually like slower for me. I think the car is slower through there for me.
Yeah.
Okay, that was like pushing as hard as I could, and that was at 57.6. So let's just, while it's warm, if I can, put this front end back on here real fast. Okay, so the car's still pretty hot, but so I mean, that was a 59 or 56.9 that time. So it wasn't the, what did I run? A 49.6. That is a pretty fast run.
Still faster though for
But-
both of us.
Okay, 49.9 again. So definitely faster. Why is it faster? We're just thinking that maybe it has something to do with the way the car's slowing down in there. Could be the tire profile. I mean, there's a lot of things, but definitely is at least a half, what is that? A half a tenth at least faster.
Math.
So you should do a razor on one side and an Indy on the other side and click off like a 230. That would make people's heads explode.
I'm gonna try doing it with a sloppy independent
Yeah, like not fully seated.
and see if that's why the razor works better. If I can.
Low flag.
There we go. Okay, so that is the Indy without the shims in there, so it's still legal width, but it's sloppy
Yeah, it's like 20 thou of
like
slop
a
more.
razor. Which for the real low traction cars, they don't like a lot of slop, we learned. They like to be run really tight.
Yeah, 59 second lap, so That's probably better.
That edge is already gone in the S's.
Yeah. So 59.1 that time, so second lap again.
Cool.
So now I think it's just finding a little bit more speed in these other corners.
Turn my sensitivity up. Okay, that always works.
What was that one? 53.3, so.
So turn, if you're
faster.
too slow, turn your sensitivity up and learn how to drive it. Because you're resting.
Magnet.
Yeah, traction mag. Oh, the chassis broke.
Oh.
Well,
Dude.
that's the end of this video. Freaking popped it in the corner.
Broke
God, I
it.
really wish I would have beat your fast lap and then broke it.
Dang. How long it was broken. I guess it could have been broken for a while.
That's what was wrong with it.
Yeah, it broke before you could beat his time.
So, anyways, that shows too right there that even that adjustment John did to make that a little bit looser, that suited his driving style better. But I think the consensus, tire for tire, or size for size, the independent, even though it's got a lot more parts, I think it's better. I mean, one other thing to note is because it has aluminum wheels and a bigger tire versus the lightweight plastic wheel, the independent is heavier, which could make the front feel a little bit more planted. That's something else to consider. So, you know, to me, I would still play around with stuff. I wouldn't discredit the Razor front, but for this test, just by buying the parts, putting it on the car, independent front was a 10th, right? 10th? Yeah, it was a 10th quicker, so. 10th of a second, what, 12 bucks? Pretty good deal. Formula One, that costs like, I don't know, $10 million
Yeah,
or
we
more.
raise the price on those.
Yeah, yep, and freaking a new chassis, so. But that's just what happens when you're pushing it. You know, like I said, John and I both, we can put the car right on the edge of what the fastest that it can go is. And that's what we want to do for this test. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. See you on the next one.